What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now it's about that time, September 14th, rapidly approaching. Great fight card, great fight. I think it's going to be a historic night for boxing. Good stuff in the works. So I guess it's about time to give my predictions. I've been working on a lot of different things, so I got some exciting new content for you guys. And I want to start this off with my prediction for the Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Canelo. I was going to do Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse, but that fight is a little bit harder for me, so I figured I could start off with Canelo versus Floyd Mayweather, tell the ins and outs. And again, if you don't like being objective, if you're not impartial, then you might as well dislike the video now or stop watching the page because you may not hear what you want to hear. Again, I'm going to look at it from both sides like I do with all my predictions. I never just sell somebody short. I usually base things off facts, patterns, prior fights and that kind of stuff. And then I just swirl it all in a pot, like a gumbo pot, and come out with my prediction. Have I been wrong? Yes. Have I been right? Yes. Statistically, if you watch my predictions, I've been right or on point or close more than I've been just dreadfully wrong. Um, but that's just neither here nor there. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to give my comprehensive breakdown of Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo Alvarez. A hell of a fight, great fight on paper, and we're really going to see who is the one, and that's what this has aptly been named, the one. Now, let me tell you what I like about this matchup. On paper, this is a hell of a matchup for several reasons. One, there's a dying, burning question as far as Floyd Mayweather is how much has he declined? How much has he lost over the years in terms of foot speed? Does he still have his legs? Can he still take his punch? I mean, the man is 36 years old. So it's similar to a Bernard Hopkins when you see him fight. You're like, okay, he's fighting a heavy puncher like Tavoris Cloud. What's he going to look like? So there's always going to be, for the remainder of Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s career, the last four fights or whatever he has after Canelo, there's always going to be that level of intrigue. Is how long can he keep doing this at this level? He's been dominant for 16, 17, 18 years, whatever it is. And how long can he keep outclassing guys and fighting at this level before someone catches? As you guys know, this is the sport of boxing. That's why I don't understand why some people just don't give it up to Floyd Mayweather Jr. as being a good fighter at the very least. It's because in the sport of boxing, all it takes is one night, one bad night, one off night. And that, in essence, could be your career. If you take such a beating, you might not be able to recover, or you might be punch drunk, or whatever the situation is. But it really takes one off night. So for people to downplay Floyd Mayweather's victories is almost blasphemous because he's in there with guys like Victor Ortiz who rehydrate to the 160s, or guys that are 6 years younger like Robert Guerrero, who's coming off of good wins and looks bigger than Floyd Mayweather. He's a southpaw, and they do have attributes to win. I picture Guerrero as a very competitive person. I've seen him make adjustments in fights, although he has not fought at welterweight and campaigned at welterweight for 4 years or whatnot. He still, to me, has the ability to give anyone not named Floyd Mayweather problems. Again, he's a southpaw, highly competitive. He is a thinker. He can make adjustments, even though it wasn't displayed. It's because of his opponent. It's like I could be a good chess player, but if I'm playing against Bobby Fischer, he might make me look like shit, even though I'm really a good chess player. And all the people in my nearby areas and local cities, I might just be totally beating them in chess. But when I get matched up against Bobby Fischer, it's a different ballgame. And Floyd Mayweather is the Bobby Fischer of this boxing game. And people hate on him, you don't like him or whatever, but you got to give the man credit for what he does. Again, in boxing, all it takes is one bad night, and things change. Like Gennady Golovkin, he says he had the flu when he fought Gabe Rosado, and he did not look good in that fight. So Floyd Mayweather also said he was sick during the Cotto fight, but he convincingly and clearly won. And I'm not saying Triple G didn't, because he obviously did. He stopped Gabe Rosado. But my point being, it just takes one bad night, and you never know what happens. Gabriel Rosado possibly could have, if he had more power or something, could have stopped him just off of one bad night, or just getting over the flu or whatever the situation is. And that's my whole point. Some people are so quick to discredit or downplay Floyd out of pure hatred, or they hate him, or they hate blacks, or they hate pure boxers, whatever the situation is. He's just been dominating so long, so you want to see fresh faces take over the sport. Whatever their argument is, you still got to give the man credit. I look to all the greats, from Chavez Sr. to Muhammad Ali to Ray Robinson's. These people are great fighters. These are great, historical boxers, and you got to give it up, despite if you were their favorite or if they're favorites of yours or not. I mean, these are great fighters that have done great things, and Mayweather is one of those rare people who has had longevity in the sport. Aside from that, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez has been a person who's been fighting since he was 15, turned pro at age 15, and he seems to be getting better and better. Plus, he's much bigger in terms of physical mass and size, and he's a smart fighter, and he seems to be improving. Now, his resume is nowhere near the best. We'll just say that. I'm not going to compare his resume to anyone else, but it's nowhere near the best. But he's rose to the occasion in all the challenges he had. He showed that he has other things in the shed, other tools in his toolkit. In the Austin Trout fight, he showed some head movement. He made Austin Trout uncomfortable by fighting a fight that didn't really support Austin Trout's style. Austin Trout was a southpaw who would have been better off trying to pick Canelo apart and having Canelo as the aggressor. But Canelo actually came out tricky and did the opposite, and he made Austin Trout walk him down, and he was the one counterpunching. So the kid has skills. He shows he has skills, and again, he's big. But one of the big mysteries to me is how long can Floyd Mayweather continue doing this at this level against much younger opponents. Canelo is much younger than him. He's 23. Floyd Mayweather is 36. So he's over a decade older than Canelo. So that's one thing that makes this intriguing. And then just look at the physical size and skill set of Canelo, a young champion who's been fighting for since he was age 15, and he seems to be getting better and better. He has momentum. He's also undefeated, and Mayweather's Mayweather. So it's a really good fight. As far as the fight, my prediction, I can't go against Mayweather, just to be perfectly honest. Until I see it, then it's hard to bet against him. Some people bet with your hearts. You bet with your race, national origin, creed. That's cool. But I bet from a realistic standpoint. These are good fights. I don't care if someone's black, brown, yellow, white, green. It doesn't matter. They could be purple. They could be the same color as Barney, the dinosaur. It doesn't matter. I base it off of what I see in the ring and who I see imposing their will, making adjustments, and having the higher skill set and or being at that championship level. And to me, that fighter would be Floyd Mayweather. Canelo does have a shot to beat Mayweather. Again, he is big. He has a skill set of his own. He shows that he has boxing prowess. To me, Canelo has underrated speed. He's not Zab Judah fast or Amir Khan fast or Pacquiao fast. However, I think people like Austin Trout get in the ring with him expecting this slow, flat-footed fighter, and they're probably shocked by his actual speed. When you watch somebody on TV, totally different than actually being there. I mean, if you're watching National Geographics and they're in Vietnam covering the war, I mean, that's fine and dandy. You can see it and like, oh, it looks traumatic. But imagine being in Vietnam. You got people in the trenches crawling, people stepping on landmines, getting blown to smithereens. You got bullets whizzing by you. It's loud. People are crying in pain and sticking themselves with morphine because they're near death. It's a whole different feeling when you're actually there. And almost you can't even duplicate it. That's why I like concerts. I like concerts. I've seen a lot of great people, Jay-Z's to Eminem to Prince. I've seen a lot of great concerts. And that's why people pay $200, $300, $150 for a ticket, because it's that live experience and you can't duplicate it. You could watch Fade to Black or some shit with Jay-Z at Madison Square Garden, but imagine the people who actually went to Madison Square Garden. You could feel the electricity in the room. You could feel the crowd presence. You can see the lights and the actual sweat, and the live experience is different. So as far as fighters, it's really what happens the night of the fight, and it can't be duplicated. So this fight to me is intriguing for several reasons, as I just mentioned. Again, Canelo has a shot to beat Mayweather if he imposes his will, uses his size, uses a jab, like Oscar De La Hoya keeps saying. The thing why I wouldn't put my money on Canelo is youth and experience. I think he's still pretty green. Canelo is a type of fighter who seems to be improving, yet all of his opponents, not to discredit them, but most of them were past their prime, undersized, except for Austin Trout. Go down the list. Carlos Baldomir, he was like 40 or 41, and he was very inactive at that point in his career. It was like the downside of his career. Plus, you have to look at, if a fighter is near the end of his rope, look at what they do next. Carlos Baldomir, I don't think he's fought since the Canelo loss. Shane Mosley, after Shane Mosley lost to Canelo, he retired for some time, for over a year. That goes to show you that where they're at in their particular career. Mosley also hadn't won since the Margarito fight, which had been 4 years at the time Canelo fought him. He lost to Mayweather, had a draw with Sergio Mora, and he lost to Pacquiao and got knocked down in that fight. So those are good wins and names on his resume. However, I don't think those people were anywhere near their peak. So Canelo being the bigger man, I don't think those people would bring out the best or cause him to think beyond what he had to, if that makes any sense. Again, Shane Mosley, he doesn't fight smart. He's that's why a lot of, if you look at it, a lot of Hispanics that like the Rock'em Sock'em Robots and just the all-out brawls and wars, a lot of them have respect or like Shane Mosley because of the way he fights. He fights aggressive. He fights mostly offensive-minded, not really defensive, and he has a chin and he lays it all out on the line. That's why he's had tough fights with Cotto and De La Hoya twice, etc., etc. So with Mosley, that's kind of the perfect formula. A past prime Mosley who is fighting a much bigger man. You know what I mean? Now, don't take anything away from Canelo in the sense of, if Canelo didn't have the skill set he had, then Mosley would have beat him. But obviously, Canelo does have actual skill. So, again, I'm not trying to belittle anybody or whatever. I'm really giving a comprehensive breakdown. My honest opinion, like the Matthew Hattons and the Rhodes and Josecito Lopez, those guys were just too small. They are not going to be, as much as I like Josecito Lopez, he doesn't always fight smart. He has boxing ability, but he doesn't always use it. Sometimes he fights with his heart more than his brain, which is why I think he lost the Marcos Maidana fight, because he was winning several rounds early and he started getting too bold, and then he ended up succumbing to the bigger puncher, which is Marcos Maidana. So again, a fighter that I enjoy watching, Josecito Lopez, but he doesn't always fight smart. He doesn't always use his actual tools. And these guys are career 140 pounders, 154 pounders, or whatever the situation is. Basically most of them aren't true 154 pounders. That's my whole point. That's one thing. So if you haven't been tested in those deep waters with someone who's actually bigger than you or stronger than you, Austin Trout was not stronger than Canelo. He's not known for knockout power. He's known for being a slippery, slick fighter. So Austin Trout, to me, is his best win because the fighter was undefeated and he's a southpaw. He has the ability to outbox you, and Canelo rose to that occasion. But to me, that's his biggest win based on where Trout was in his career. Trout still has fights left in him. A lot of the other guys that he beat were undersized and their careers kind of went down or they retired or whatever. Kermit Cintron, Carlos Baldomir, Shane Mosley, etc. Now, how it comes into play for the Mayweather fight is experience. Experience is huge in the sport of boxing. To beat a guy like Floyd Mayweather, you have to just catch him like Shane Mosley did, but be able to pull the trigger and finish the job. I think Mayweather has an underrated chin, which is a problem. But you have to be able to finish him off. And a lot of times Mayweather gets hit, but he doesn't get hit with a succession of punches. He'll get hit with the third out of 5 punches, and then he's like blocking or some of the other punches are grazing. He has an impeccable, crazy defense, and the experience factor I think is going to be a little bit too much for Canelo. Again, I could be totally wrong. This is just my perception of what I see. So experience is a factor. Floyd Mayweather's been at this level. He's fought bigger men. Victor Ortiz is. I would say Robert Guerrero even looked bigger than him and weighed more than him the day before in the weigh-in. He's fought those bigger people. A lot of times in the sport of boxing, you get fans who are more or less surface area fans, and they look to certain things like, oh, if Shane Mosley was able to catch him, then Canelo's going to kill him. Or he looked uncomfortable against Ricky Hatton, so Canelo's going to kill him. But you got to really look at these different fights. Jose Luis Castillo, Ricky Hatton, Mosley, none of these fighters are Canelo. So to say he's going to duplicate what they did, it's like it remains to be seen. And a lot of times you guys use examples that aren't even really comparable. Ricky Hatton is an all-out like brawler for the most part. He's an all-out brawler. Canelo is not a high-volume puncher like Ricky Hatton. He's not going to just swarm you and be reckless and just hope he doesn't get knocked out. Canelo is, to me, more of a thinker than that. Jose Luis Castillo had a close competitive fight with Mayweather, but he was taller, he was bigger. Mayweather was younger in his career. Plus, Mayweather said he had a hurt shoulder. Whether you believe him or not, he had a surgery afterwards and rematched him and clearly beat Castillo. And that was like over a decade ago. So how much do you think a fighter has grown since a decade? That's like me talking about what LeBron James did in Cleveland. That's fine and dandy, but he's looking pretty damn good right now with the Miami Heat. And I'm not even a Miami Heat fan. That's just a fact. He doesn't look like he's folding under pressure. His first year, it looked like he was. He was with the Miami Heat. I was like, damn, this dude does not have any clutch gene at all. But as he got acclimated to the team and kept playing, I mean, he's looking pretty good in the championship level. And arguably, the reason Miami Heat won the last 2 years is because of LeBron James mostly. I mean, if he wasn't on the team, I don't think that they would have won at least twice back to back. So that's just my personal opinion. So to talk about what LeBron did in Cleveland, his mishaps or whatever, that's cool, but that's years ago. So again, just make sure your examples are really relevant. Mayweather fought Hatton. I don't even know the exact year off the top of my head, but afterwards he took a 2-year retirement. He was retired for nearly 2 years, so it's obviously some years ago since that happened. So he had a different trainer. His uncle was primarily training him. Now his uncle's mostly doing mitt work. Just different fighters, different times. And Ricky Hatton also had that championship level big fight experience. I'm not saying Canelo doesn't, but Josecito Lopez, Alfonso Gomez, Kermit Cintron, and washed up Baldemir is not comparable to Ricky Hatton beating Costa Tszyu when he beat him in fights like that. So, like I said, just compare apples for apples. Again, Canelo has a shot to beat Mayweather, but I think his keys to victory are going to be asking a lot from him. I think he's going to have to use a jab consistently. He's going to have to not get frustrated. He's going to have to go to the body, which is something he's definitely good at. He's going to have to let his hands go. He's going to have to use his size, make Mayweather uncomfortable. He's going to have to more or less beat the stalker and a high volume puncher, and I don't really think that's him. I don't think that's really his MO. I see Canelo more or less as like a boxer puncher, but he's not an all-out brawler. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but I don't see Canelo doing all of the things that would be necessary to destroy Mayweather or to beat him. He can make it a close fight. Like I said, he could even win it, but from what I see, I just think it's so early, and his style might have him looking good in spots, but ultimately I don't think it's going to be enough to win the fight. And like I said, Canelo could have a good showing, win more rounds than other people have won against Mayweather, but ultimately, if he doesn't hurt Mayweather drastically early to the point and finish and pull the trigger, then I think as the fight wears on, it's going to be bad news for Canelo because Mayweather is a fighter that seems to get better at that championship level as the fight progresses. You've seen in the 11th, 12th round of Cotto fight, he looked like Cotto was buzzed. And to be perfectly honest, on the Cotto Mayweather fight, it looked like Cotto, like he carried Cotto, like he had respect for him, so he didn't want to embarrass him or do anything too risky, which is another smart thing about Mayweather. Pacquiao doesn't fight like that. Pacquiao just like tried to bulldoze Marquez and then he got knocked out for it. Amir Khan was feeling himself so much and then he got knocked out for it by Danny Garcia. So Mayweather's a smart fighter. I think he's gonna like pick his spots. Um, he's gonna be the smaller of the two fighters, so I think his movement is gonna bother Canelo, who is pretty flat-footed. Um, he's not like a Brandon Rios per se, but I still think his movement will be bothered, will bother Canelo, and it's going to be hard to hone in on Mayweather. And I think again, if he doesn't hurt him drastically early on, to the point where he can pull the trigger and finish it, it's going to be a long night for Canelo, and he's just going to get frustrated and picked off. And I don't think anyone has really pushed Canelo to that brink. I've seen guys push Mayweather to the brink, and I've seen how he responds. So again, that's why I have to pick Mayweather. Zab Judah looked tremendous against Mayweather early. He was beating Mayweather to the punch. He was looking faster, crisper, sharper than Mayweather, and I've seen Mayweather make those adjustments. Ricky Hatton. Mayweather fought Ricky Hatton. He looked uncomfortable at spots or like he needed to adjust. He took some rounds, had like a slower start. Um, Shane Mosley caught him in the second round, hurt him. But I can't really recall the time where Canelo was in against an elite fighter who really pushed him to that brink. He was Austin Trout, possibly, but the open scoring and all kinds of shit. Alfonso Gomez made him think a little bit, but to me, I look at Alfonso Gomez as the contender. I don't look at him as a Marcos Antonio Barrera caliber fighter. That's just me personally. I don't put him up. I don't put Alfonso Gomez with the Juan Manuel Marquez's and Barreras and Eric Morales's and fighters like that. That's just me personally. So I'm looking forward to a good fight. I think it will be a good fight. I think Canelo has the ability to look better against Mayweather than other people have done. But ultimately, I think it's going to boil down to Mayweather using his speed, his angles, um, just being hard to track for Canelo. And then as the late rounds progress, I think Canelo's going to grow frustrated, kind of like everybody else. Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero looked very sharp in the first three rounds, and then when it came down to the later rounds, he didn't look good. Like by the eighth round, he was definitely looking frustrated and flawed. And I've yet to see somebody do that to Canelo. Like, I'm not saying his wins were easy, but I don't recall a Zab Judah Mayweather type fight or Castillo where Canelo's really had to dig down deep and and use the extra tank of gas. You know what I mean? And then the other thing is clearly the Canelo stamina issue. He said he's working with a nutritionist, but he looks like he's such a big guy that he exerts energy and fights in spurts. Like how he fought Mayweather, that's not a volume. That's not a high enough volume to me to beat a guy like Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is going to be able to fight at that pace all night. To me, from what I can see, when he fought Mayweather or Mosley, he kind of like was saving energy and then having like explosive bursts, like bow bow bow, and looking good. But then that's like half a round, and I think Mayweather can fight at that pace with no problems. He wasn't really active. Mosley is just a different fighter than Mayweather anyway. Again, not focusing in on defense. And the last thing about Canelo is Canelo has seemed to have a little bit more, minus Austin Trout. And you could argue early on Trout made it a close fight or whatever before the open scoring and all that. But he seems to have had some problems with slicker fighters or black fighters like Larry Mosley, Lovemore, and Leonardo Tyner, just different people like that. So you're going from the Tyners to Mayweather Jr., which is the cream of the crop. So again, I see Mayweather most likely skating to a unanimous decision. Canelo is a big boy. I haven't really seen him drastically hurt. He was getting tagged by Alfonso Gomez and things like that. But I don't know if Mayweather will A, have the power, or B, load up and put himself in harm's way trying to knock out a much bigger person like Canelo. So it's possible there's a late stoppage. I just have to see how that goes. But I would just say skates to a unanimous decision. And that's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you want to see win? How do you think it'll play out? Leave a comment. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video's Ego signing off.